This is Master Cleveland. Tonight we're going to work on a couple of things that I've mentioned before, although it's a little bit difficult to do this without a part. We're going to do what Yokonawans call bunkai. Koreans, I believe the term is bunche. But I'm using two patterns, one of which is Icho Obu, the other one is Chunji. These are very similar patterns. So first I'm going to do the first pattern, which is going to be Icho Obu. I'm going to do it at speed, normal speed, and then I'm going to break the pattern down. I'm going to do the same kind of with Chunji. Ready? Okay, having done that, there's misconceptions on forms. People look at them as, okay, this is just a thing we do for promotion. However, they're telling a story. The first thing you see me doing with this pattern, and the pattern I mentioned, the other pattern, which is Chunji, the first movement, you're in ready stance. The head turns towards what is supposed to be the attack. So when I turn, it unlocks the body, allows for the movement, and allows for the punch. Now people will think, or most of us are taught, the attack's coming from this direction. But honestly, you have to look at it, patterns, three different ways. If I'm turning to face the attack, that means my low defense is deflecting the attack off angle. If I'm to bring this from a side view so you can see it more, I'm turning into the attack. So I'm deflecting the kick, in this case, off to the side. But one thing I haven't done though, is since I've done this, I've deflected the kick. They're still moving towards me. If they're still moving towards me, it stands to reason that there's going to be another attack. Usually it's a hand strike, punch. Now, having said that, the movement has to be fast to deflect. And by the way, one other thing is this is not simply a block, as they call it. A block requires you to have more mass than what's coming at you. That's never going to happen unless you weigh 1,000 pounds. You happen to turn into a brick wall. You're not going to stop force coming at you. So what you're doing is deflecting. But with a deflection, that attack is still coming your way. This is, like I said, this is easier to do when I have a partner. The attack is deflected. They're still coming your way. If they're throwing a punch after the kick, you're behind. Now, if you're fast, you can get that technique off. But again, they're still coming at you. So another way to look at this is that attack really coming from the side? Because really, you're not going to go into the attack. It's foolish. Cars coming at you, you're going to get out of the way. So it stands to reason if a punch is coming at you, it's much easier if he's coming from the side. I move over here and get out of the way. Or I step over here, and again, get out of the way. So another way to look at this is the attack's coming from an angle. He's coming here, which seems a lot more likely that he's going to attack me from an off angle. The first thing I'm going to do is the attack's coming this way, is I'm going to step out of the way and deflect. So hereby you're knocking the target this way. If a person's throwing a kick at you, they're going to be knocked off this way, which also keeps their body moving downward So this doesn't necessarily have to be a body punch. It turns into a head punch. And the same thing on this side. Conversely, if I move straight into Chun-Ji, you see the same thing. Chun-Ji is a little bit different, but the first two movements are actually the same from the two patterns. You're going, what they're saying is into the attack. Remember, and think about this when you do your patterns. Are you really going to turn into the attack? Because you better be faster than he is. Most likely it's going to be here, which gives you time, gives you deflect the attack off angle. In a real fight, of course, if you're going to knock him aside, you're not going to step, you're just going to hit him. But for the purpose of the form, that. We take the next two techniques from Chun-Ji, where you go into the outer defense. And I'll go into that in a second. Here, it's a little bit more likely that you may go into the attack. However, the same thing applies. You're deflecting it. You're moving him off here. He keeps moving that way. Then you counter with a blow. Take it yet another way. Say somebody grabs your wrist. This is another way to look at your basic pattern. Somebody grabs your wrist. Now, in situations like this, you turn, you pull the person off balance. Same thing happens. Their body moves off here, and then you strike. And our defense, like in Chun-Ji, in the second set of moves, if someone were to do this, you're bringing their hand up here. Now the part you don't see is where the hand opens and pulls them into the punch. When you do your basic patterns, take a look at the movements. Don't always assume that, okay, the attack's coming from this angle, I should go into it. Because again, we're talking about speed. You're also talking about the fact that you're not blocking anything, you're simply moving it aside a little bit. But if you're moving it aside, it's still moving in your direction. Which kind of brings the question, why would you do this? Last point, with Gicho, when you come here to the end, again, you're looking at this. Okay, the attack's coming from this angle. What is it? Because if I'm going to turn, I'm turning away from an attack, or I'm pivoting out of the way of an attack. You're never going to go into a movement, into an opponent's attack. In future videos, you'll see part numbers when you start to see this. But what I would suggest to people as you start learning your forms, do it with a partner. Have them do things like grab your wrist and do that same blocking, or should I say, defense maneuver, and watch what happens. But always make them move the body. Don't just make it lazy, move the body. Energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be redirected. If a person's coming at you, you're not going to stop them dead cold unless you hit them somewhere that stops them dead cold. In the beginning, as you're learning your forms and techniques, you're not going to do this. You're going to basically learn how to move. But when you look at your techniques as just, okay, I got to get there before he does. Think about how you would respond to a real technique, a real attack. If someone's coming straight at you and they're throwing a punch, most likely you're going to get out of the way. You're not going to throw a hand down and block, because the problem with that is, again, they're still moving your way. That's basically just the first two patterns. It may seem a little bit confusing. Start looking at your patterns from three different mindsets. If the attack's coming from this angle, of course you're taught to do this to deflect it. But just keep in mind that person, even though you've blocked or deflected their leg or that low attack, they're still coming your way. Most likely, or also likely, that attack can be coming from an angle. And people say, well, you know, you can't do that. They're coming from this angle. Why would you do this? Never be there. Move out of the way.